Yo, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the SWUS. College Basketball Monday. Got a few games here. I'm going to go through 3 of them. Obviously, no NBA till Thursday because of the All-Star break. Had a good weekend. Had a nice little college basketball day. Won some money. Well, actually, I broke even yesterday. I lost Indiana, but I won South Florida. So, yeah, I'm going to go through 3 games for Monday night. Let's roll.
Welcome to the SWUS. The SWUS. SWUS. Hey, get the SWUS.
First up, we got Virginia Tech. Cavs are on the road in this one. Tech laying 2.5 or 3 points at home, depending on your sports book. Total sitting at 126.5. Betting trends on the Virginia side. Cavs are 4-4 against the spread on the road this year. 3-1 against the spread as road favorites. 9-1 straight up in their last 10, though. So Virginia's won 9 of their last 10 games. On the Virginia Tech side, 7-4 against the spread as home favorites this year. So this has been a nice spot for Tech. Just 1-4 in their last 5 against the spread and straight up, though. So they've been on a bit of a slide. Let's take a look at the recent schedule for these two teams. We got to point out the obvious. Like I said, Virginia's been rolling 9-1 in their last 10. 4-0 in their last 4 on the road, though, which is huge. Obviously, they're on the road here. Virginia Tech just 4-6 in their last 10. Strength of schedule edge goes slightly to Virginia Tech. They're 73rd in the last 10 games compared to 107th for Virginia. Let's take a look at the matchup for Virginia's offense. And actually, I'd give them the edge here over Virginia Tech's defense. You don't get to give Virginia's offense the edge in many matchups. Efficient field goal percentage, 134th to 303rd. They might not get many looks from the free throw line, though. Just 354th in free throw rate in the last 10. And check this out. When we pull up some shot charts, Virginia's actually got the edge shooting the ball in the interior. Not that UVA's offense has done anything on the interior. 203rd and 223rd in efficiency in the paint and at the rim. But look at Virginia Tech's defensive numbers down there. 317th and 312th. We do have to point out, though, that Virginia Tech's defense has been much better at home. Even the adjusted numbers, which take into account the easier schedule at home, just 98.4 adjusted points per 100 possessions allowed compared to 111 on the road. So the fact that this game's at home is huge for Virginia Tech. But when we flip it over to the other side of the court, obviously Virginia has the edge again. I mean, the UVA defense has been great all year. In the last 10 games, Virginia's defense is towards the top in all 4 of the major factors. They have the big edge over Tech in rebounding, turnovers, and free throw rate. Virginia Tech should really struggle to get buckets down low in this one. Look at the UVA defensive numbers in the last 10 games at the rim. Opponents are shooting just 52.2% in their field goal attempts at the basket in the last 10 against UVA. That's 9th best in the country. Tech actually likes to take a lot of their shots from 3. In the last 10 games, they're 40th in above the break 3 frequency. That accounts for 33.8% of their shot attempts as a team in the last 10 games. Look at UVA's defensive efficiency against the above the break 3, 29th. Virginia opponents are shooting just 29.3% from above the break in the last 10. In reality, the only angle I could see for Virginia Tech here is the home away splits. As we pointed out, they play better defense at home. And look at UVA's home away splits. Virginia, obviously we know that defense is elite. They actually haven't been nearly as good on the road this year. So if you're betting the Hokies, you're pretty much just riding the home team, riding the home away splits. And also you could say this is a huge game for Virginia Tech. It's a rivalry game. It's a rivalry game for both teams, but they need this one to get into the tournament. So they got this one circled for sure. But I'm not there. Virginia's just a much better team here. And I actually already bet this one at +3. I'm getting 3 points with a much better team. So give me Virginia +3 next game. Iowa State on the road at Houston. Good one here. Houston laying 9 points or 9.5, depending on your sports book. Total sitting at 127.5. Betting trends on the clone side look nice. 5-2 against the spread on the road this year. 5-2 against the spread as underdogs. 7-1 against the spread in their last 8. Iowa State's been red hot. On the Houston side, as we know, Cougars have been very good at home this year. 9-4-1 against the spread at home. Just 1-4 against the spread in their last 5, though. So Houston has not been covering the number as of late. Before we get into the numbers on this one, we need to mention that these two teams already played this year. Back on January 9th, about 6 weeks ago now. Iowa State beat them. Houston went on the road, took the L. Final score 57-53 Iowa State. If we look at the recent schedules for these two teams, both teams are actually 8-2 in their last 10. Iowa State just 3-2 in their last 5 on the road, though. Meanwhile, Houston is a perfect 5-0 at home. So the fact that this game's at Houston is huge. Strength of schedule is a wash. Big 12 is absolutely loaded, so both of these teams are top of the country in strength of schedule. We'll start with the matchup for the Cyclones offense, and the edge definitely goes to Houston on this side of the court. Efficient field goal percentage, 64th to 193rd. Iowa State does have the rebounding edge, and Houston's been having problems with fouls, just 327th in defensive free throw rate in the last 10. So the Clones should get some trips to the foul line, but overall, surface level numbers point towards Houston in the last 10. And if we pull up the shot charts on this side of the court, really tough to find where Iowa State's going to score points from in this game. Iowa State does not take many outside shots at all. Just under 70% of Iowa State's shot attempts in the last 10 games have come from inside the three-point line. So Iowa State, not much of an outside shooting team. And I guess we can point to the long mid-range shot. Houston has struggled to defend that zone, but that accounts for just 17% of Iowa State's shot attempts in the last 10. So it's not a huge volume of shots. 23.2% of Iowa State's shot attempts have come from the short mid-range. It's labeled paint on this chart. Look at Houston defensively in that zone. That zone is 8 to 12 feet. Opponents are shooting just 28.8% from the floor from 8 to 12 feet against Houston in the last 10. Absolutely nuts. That's 7th best in the country. Keep in mind, we're talking about Houston's defense at home here. Now, Houston's probably the best defense in the country, period. But at home, the numbers get even crazier. They're basically first in every single statistical category on defense at home this year. And keep in mind, they play in the Big 12, so it's not like they have an easy schedule. Now, when we flip it over to the other side of the court, really don't know who to give the edge to here. Houston has not been making their shots at all. In the last 10 games, they're 294th in efficient field goal percentage. It's been bad, but Iowa State's defense hasn't really been great either. And look at the rebounding edge. Huge in favor of Houston. 349th to 20th in the last 10 games. So Houston may not be making their shots, but they should have plenty of second chance opportunities in this one. As far as the shot charts on this side of the court, I mean, I guess we could point at the mid-range shooting. Houston takes a lot of mid-range shots, 23.2% and 19.7%. So 43% of Houston's shot attempts in the last 10 games have come from those two zones, have come from the mid-range. The problem is they're not hitting them. I mean, look at their field goal percentage in those two zones. They're taking a lot of them, but they're not hitting them. Iowa State's defensive efficiency, though, in those two zones, not good. 172nd and 183rd. So, I mean, I guess that's a positive angle for Houston. Yeah, it's thin. As far as betting this game, this one kind of sucks because Iowa State's been one of the hottest teams in college basketball. So how could you possibly lay 9.5 points to a team like that? I mean, they've been red hot, but if I'm being honest, I like the matchup for Houston here. I also like how there's a revenge angle. Iowa State beat these guys back in January. Now they're back at home, get their revenge. So this is what I did. I placed this same game parlay. Now, this is a little bit of just me doing some gambling. These same game parlays, the chances that you're actually getting a good price are pretty much slim to none. For the most part, they're usually robbing you on whatever final price they give you. It's usually robbery. But I'm going to do it. This is a huge game, so it's the best game of the night, so I want to have a bet on it. I went Houston minus 3.5, so I teased the line down, and I teased the total up to 134. Comes out to about an even minus 108, minus 110, somewhere in there. Remember, the final score of the first game was 53-57. It stayed under the total by like 30 points. So Houston minus 3.5 parlay with under 134. I'm trying it, doing some gambling. Next game, Kansas State on the road at Texas. Longhorns laying 8.5 points at home here. The total sitting at 141.5. Betting trends on the KSU side. 4-3 against the spread on the road this year. Just 1-6 against the spread in the last 7, though. They've been on a slide. 5 straight road losses. 0-5 straight up in their last 5 on the road. The good news for Kansas State, though, is Texas hasn't been good on their home court this year. Just 5-10 against the spread at home. 4-10 against the spread as home favorites. Texas is 3-2 against the spread in their last 5, so maybe they're showing signs of improvement, but as a whole, fading Texas at home has been very profitable. We'll start with the matchup for Kansas State's offense, and I got to give the edge to Texas defense on this side as far as surface level numbers. Texas defense hasn't even been good, and Kansas State does have the rebounding edge, but look at the turnover numbers here. This is terrible. Kansas State, 21.1% turnover rate in the last 10 games. So in the last 10 games, Kansas State is turning the ball over on 21.1% of their possessions. 361st in the country. There's only 363 teams in Division I college basketball. Kansas State's 361st. They are having serious problems protecting the basketball right now. If we pull up the shot charts, we got to take a look at three-point shooting. Kansas State does take a lot of threes. In the last 10 games, they're top 100 in frequency from both above the break and the corner. Problem is they're kind of ass at it. I mean, they're not great at it. Look at the efficiency numbers, 262nd and 319th. So even though Texas hasn't been the best defending the three ball, I don't know if we can really rely on the outside shots being there for Kansas State. Now, if you're looking for an angle to bet Kansas State, which truth be told, I am. I mean, I don't want to lay 8.5, 9 points with Texas. We can point at the rim. Kansas State actually has some decent shooting numbers at the basket in the last 10 games, 63rd in efficiency. And look at the Texas side. Longhorns giving up a lot of shot attempts down there. They're 142nd in defensive efficiency, so they've actually been decent at defending them, but they have given up a lot of shots at the rim, shot attempts, I should say. Now, on the other side of the court, we got Texas offense, and I guess I'd have to give the edge to Texas on this side of the court also, but Kansas State defense hasn't been bad at all. In fact, they're 24th in efficient field goal percentage in the last 10. The problem is Texas has a huge rebounding edge in this one. So, yeah, Kansas State has done a really good job contesting shots, but the Longhorns should definitely get a lot of second chance looks. The question is, where is Texas going to score points from in this game? Here are the interior numbers. Here are the shot zones from everything inside the three-point line. In the last 10 games, Texas has been taking a lot of shots at the rim and a lot of shots from the long mid range. Look at Kansas State's defensive efficiency numbers in those two zones, 89th and 86th. All right, so maybe Texas is going to struggle to score on the interior. What about three-point shooting, though? Texas has been pretty efficient shooting the three ball recently. Look at Kansas State's defensive numbers above the break. In the last 10 games, KSU opponents are shooting just 24.2% from above the break on them. 5th best in the country. And one last thing. Look at the adjusted home-away splits for Kansas State here. One of the rare teams in college basketball this year that actually has similar numbers on the road. Offense has actually been slightly better on the road, defense slightly better at home, but the point is they're close. And if you've been following college basketball this year, that hasn't been the case. Every single team has been playing better at home. Not really the case for Kansas State, which is why I'm going to take the points in this one. I haven't bet it yet, but there's not a ton of games on, so I want to get some action down. I think this is a good spot here. I'm going to take Kansas State plus 8.5. Right after I'm done recording this, I'll bet it. As far as the live show, I think we're going to do one at 3 p.m. Eastern time. I haven't confirmed that yet. There's not a ton of games to talk about, but we'll figure it out. So, yeah, I think we're going to do a live show at 3 p.m. Eastern time. If you want our top bets for all sports parlays of the day, or you'd like to join our Discord, head over to KyleKirms.com. The information's right there on the homepage. Let's have ourselves a great Monday night here. Again, not a ton of action, but we got some spots. We found a few spots. Remember to bet responsibly, and I'll talk to you in the Discord.